So let's face it, the Boston Celtics are a little bit of an enigma, aren't they? Yes, they did end up winning the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers at home, but it took overtime for that to actually happen. I mean, I know Jason Tatum ended up scoring 36 points in the game, but where was he during the fourth quarter? He just completely disappeared, didn't he? Look, all I'm saying at this point, their victory, 133 to 128, was interesting. But let's go straight to the point. What would have happened if the Boston Celtics had actually lost that first game? Now, that game was not actually really won by the Boston Celtics. It was, in fact, lost by the Indiana Pacers, who couldn't do the simplest of all things. And one of the first things that any basketball team anywhere in the world actually works on early in their season-long practices, and that is inbounding the ball. Like, the most simplistic thing to do is to actually inbound a basketball, Indiana, and they flat out blew it, which then, of course, led to the Jaylen Brown three-pointer that essentially sent the game into overtime, where the Celtics ended up winning. Now, the enigma part of the Boston Celtics is really, you've got Jason Tatum and you've got Jaylen Brown and you've got Drew Holiday, who, by the way, had his best game as a Boston Celtic, scoring 28 points yesterday. And you can't really expect Drew Holiday to score 28 points in every game going forward, can you? Then you have Derek White, who is, essentially a border all-star player, 15 points, 9 assists, 6 boards, a lot of heart, probably one of the key players with a lot of heart on this Boston Celtics team. But beyond all of that, it's just a bit of an enigma. We know that Kristaps Porzingis is out, and I get all of that, but what if the Indiana Pacers had won this game? I think it would be the sky is absolutely falling on the Boston Celtics. How could a team that won 64 games actually lose their first game at home in the Eastern Conference Finals? They would be absolutely torn apart by both the Boston media as well as the national media. I think at this point, it is pretty clear as water is wet that as good as the Boston Celtics have been throughout the season, they're just a little bit boring. They actually sort of remind me of the San Antonio Spurs. When the San Antonio Spurs bored us all to death and ended up winning a bunch of titles over a long period of time, that's sort of where I have, Jason Tatum is sort of like the modern day version of a Tim Duncan. Look, a great basketball player, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from Jason Tatum. I mean, he did score 36 points. He did have 12 rebounds. He did have 4 assists, and they did end up winning. But once again, he just completely fell asleep during the fourth quarter of the game. The Celtics, for whatever reason, will probably go on to win the NBA title this year, but it's going to be a boring NBA title at that. I think if they had actually lost this first game, the Boston Celtics would actually be in real trouble. What's going to be very interesting to watch in the upcoming game on Friday is Thursday night, whether or not the Celtics are actually going to wake up. Or are they going to continue to just sort of play the game that's being played in front of them, as opposed to dictating the style of basketball that they want to play? The Celtics should have played a different style of basketball in game one. They ended up getting themselves into a track meet with, quite frankly, the best scoring offense in the NBA this year in the Indiana Pacers, which is the game the Pacers actually want to play. If you want to look anywhere to place any sort of blame on the Celtics almost losing that first game, you can put it squarely on the head coach of the Celtics and the rest of the coaching staff. Adjustments are what the NBA playoffs are all about. The Celtics will certainly have to make some. If not, they're going to end up in another track meet with the Indiana Pacers, and I'm willing to bet if that happens, the Pacers are not going to lose Game 2. All right, North America, tell me your thoughts. I want to hear from you. Go ahead and drop in your comments. Hey, for the underrated, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. To the guitar riffs we go.